This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 95-inch.
On this week's episode, we interview the accomplished photographer behind the iconic Alpocalypse album cover, Robyn Von Swank.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Hello, Ethan. I hope you had a good week.
Hey, Dave, thank you. I did, yeah. I mean, it was kind of busy. I spent all week calculating exactly how many wax cylinders it would take to fit our entire last week's episode.
Why?
I just thought it would be interesting.
No. Of course that's totally interesting. I meant, why you? You should have made our intern Frank do it. That's his job. Okay, well, Ethan, at least one person did something productive last week.
Oh, really?
Yes, of course. Johnny O'Hearn.
Oh, wow.
According to Johnny, our release of the Mr. Frump in the Iron Lung on wax cylinder on episode 94-inch has officially become a new entry on the Weird Al encompassing song list that he runs.
Congratulations to us. How cool. Johnny does a pretty stinking majestic job cataloging each and every Weird Al song ever. Like, even if Weird Al hums something on a TV show, he probably has it listed there.
Oh, he definitely has it listed there. This list is Al-encompassing, for sure. Now, it's such a blast looking through this list, and I love it whenever we find a new song or we are able to premiere something new for the Weird Al community.
You gotta check out his list. If you haven't seen it in a while or you've never seen it, head over to weirdal.info and click on Completionist Guide on the homepage. And if you know of any songs Al has sung or hummed or blinked out in Morse code, be sure to let Johnny know.
Oh, I love that website, weirdal.info. It's my favorite Weird Al website.
It's my second favorite after 2000inch.com.
All right, well, let's move on to this week in Weird Al related news.
Yes, so our good friends, Portugal the Man, from episodes 19-inch and 76-inch, they are doing a very exciting event on Friday.
So back in 2008, as a young band, and after performing over 300 shows, Portugal the Man went to a studio and recorded their full live show with no audience.
And they've never publicly released this recording. Only a few select fans and little places have seen it. Never anything as wide and public as this. So it's very exciting that it will be streaming completely free on Friday, February 26th, starting at 9 p.m. Burrito time. That's 6 p.m. Hollywood Star Time.
Head over to PortugalTheMan.com for information and links to their live stream on YouTube and Twitch.
And while you're there, be sure to check out their new Who's Gonna Stop Me merchandise that includes Weird Al's name on it.
As you may have heard, the band Daft Punk has officially broken up.
Now, Weird Al fans may recognize them because their song Get Lucky was included in Weird Al's Mandatory Fun Polka Medley. Now, that's what I call polka.
You know, I have a funny story about that song.
Oh, well, what is it?
Okay, so my wife Jackie, she used to work with this veterinarian from Poland named Severin. Now, Severin absolutely loved American pop music, so he would sing along to as many songs as he could when they came on the radio.
Okay.
English was not Severin's first language, and he never really looked at the lyric sheets, so occasionally he would get a few of the words wrong.
Oh, no.
Every so often, Jackie would share these with me, and my favorite one was when Severin messed up what he thought they were saying in Daft Punk's Get Lucky.
Oh, man. I mean, that song's pretty hard to mess up. What did he think they were saying?
Okay, so instead of the line, "We're up all night to get lucky," Severin would sing, "We're up all night, Mexican lucky."
Mexican lucky? What does that even mean?
Well, Severin just thought that's how the song went. And you know what? If you actually listen to it, you can hear it too. So now whenever I hear a Daft Punk song or the clip in Weird Al's Polka, I now automatically hear, "We're up all night, Mexican lucky."
I can't imagine that, but I feel like now I'm never going to not hear it. So thank you, Dave.
Well, sorry, Ethan, and sorry, listeners. You will now hear Mexican Lucky as well.
I don't know. This just reminded me. My friend Stephanie told me how when she was a kid, she thought that Parmesan cheese was actually Farmer John cheese. So she would just call it Farmer John cheese, and it kind of does sound like it. So I like that story so much that I guess I had told my dad at one point, and I went to tell him again because I just love that story. And anytime someone says Parmesan cheese, I always mention it. So I tell my dad the story, and it's like, had I ever told you that before? He said, not only did you tell me that before, but now we exclusively refer to Parmesan cheese as Farmer John cheese in my house.
Well, I think you're exclusively going to hear We're Up All Night Mexican Lucky
Yes.
from now on in your house as well. Be sure to tell your dad that story.
I will.
Also.
I'll tell him twice.
Now, there are definitely some lines in Weird Al songs that I've misheard or I've heard of people mishearing. And I'm just wondering, does that ever happen to you?
All right. Well, the first one I got to start with, I know, Dave, you and I both feel very strongly about this one. From Al's album Running with Scissors, the song Jerry Springer, the official lyrics are, that goat doesn't love you. But I swear, when I listen to it, I always hear that goat doesn't belong to you. It's so weird because I don't know how it adds all those extra syllables, but every time I hear it, that is what I hear.
I can go back and forth on that one. Sometimes I hear that goat doesn't love you, and sometimes I hear that goat doesn't belong to you. But I've definitely, the first time I heard it, I heard that goat doesn't belong to you. So for me, that is the definitive lyric.
Okay.
Now, one that I always heard from the beginning wrong is in Like a Surgeon, the line is, give me all your gauze, nurse. I always hear it as, give me all your Gosners. I have no idea what Gosners are. They're probably a made-up word, but that is what I've heard. And I've heard a lot of other people say, give me all your Gosners as well. I think that might be maybe the most famous example.
I feel like we need to invent Gosners and sell them on shop.2000inch.com. Anytime someone would listen to Like a Surgeon, they will get a free advertisement for our Gosners. Now, this is one that I didn't mix up myself, but after, I feel like it was an Ask Al. I'm not sure where I first saw it, but once I saw it, then I started hearing it if I really listened for it. So that's in Midnight Star, where at the end where he goes, you can read it, you can read it, you can read it. Sometimes you could hear, eat a chicken, eat a chicken, eat a chicken. It sounds so ridiculous, but listen for it and you might catch it.
I've never heard that one. I'm going to have to listen for that one. When I was a child, I always heard one of the lyrics in Don't Wear Those Shoes wrong.
Okay.
The official lyric is, but I'm begging you down on my bended knees. I was convinced that it was, but I'm begging you down on my brand new knees. In fact, I sang that over and over again until my cousin came and said, Dave, what are you singing? And I told him, he's like, it's not brand new knees. That makes no sense. It's bended knees. So then I thought about it, and you know what? He's right. Brand new knees makes no sense.
Well, it's like the Mexican Lucky. It's like, it doesn't make any sense, but if that's what you hear, that's what you hear,
Exactly.
I remember, hearing It's All About the Pentiums as a kid, and the line, I'll Control-Alt-Delete you, which is really a genius and brilliant line. And It actually ended up on the back of one of the t-shirts. I, for whatever reason as a kid, heard I'll Control-All-the-Leech you. I don't know what leech you is. I assume they're something like Gosners. Another product that maybe we can sell on shop.2000inch.com.
Well, these are just great. Listeners, if you can think of any others, please post them over on our group.2000inch.com. We'd love to get a discussion going on misheard Weird Al lyrics, and maybe we'll share them on a future episode.
Speaking of episodes, this week's episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also hard.
Whoa, what is happening in Darwin?
Darwin, Minnesota is home to Precast Systems, a cement manufacturing company that's been around for 49 years.
Whoa, hold on a minute there, Ethan. I got to stop you. I think you mean a concrete manufacturing company that has been around for 49 years.
Well, what's the difference?
Although the terms cement and concrete are often interchangeable, cement is actually an ingredient of concrete. Concrete is a mixture of aggregates and paste, and the aggregates are sand, gravel, or crushed stone, and the paste is water and cement.
Wow, that's so educational and, dare I say, fun. So how did they get started?
Precast Systems' first production facility consisted of one septic tank form, one dry well form, one feed bunk form, a 1961 Ford boom truck painted highway orange, and a telephone box attached to a telephone pole.
Do you think they take pride in great customer service and producing products with the highest standard of quality and workmanship?
At first, I was skeptical of their claims, but then I found, wait for it, concrete evidence.
Podcast listeners, Precast Systems could use your help.
Despite being active since 2017, their Facebook page only has 6 people who like it and 7 followers.
You know what to do.
That's right, listeners. Let's get them exactly 27 likes and then just stop.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
Well, I think it's time for this week's interview.
Dave and I are very excited to welcome to the program. She is an incredible photographer who has shot every comedian and celebrity that you care about ever, including, of course, the one and only Weird Al Yankovic. We are so excited to welcome to the podcast Robyn Von Swank. How's it going, Robyn?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
You're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Now, for people who aren't familiar with your work, I guarantee that they have seen your work maybe 100 times. Even if they're not Weird Al fans, you have shot so many incredible people. You are the go-to comedy photographer, as far as I can tell.
One of them, yeah. I'm not the only one. But
Not the only one.
Not the only one. I happen to be in the right place at the right time with the right people. So I just feel very lucky that I got into that niche at the right spot in history, basically.
Your resume of all the amazing comedians that you have worked with is incredible, and I want to get to some of those shortly, but I would love for you to give us and our listeners a little background about just where you grew up, how you got into photography.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, where it's super rainy and cold. And I mean, yeah, it was like a great place to grow up. Just lots of nature and, fresh air and stuff. And yeah, as a kid, I was kind of a weirdo and didn't have that many friends. But I had this one friend named Matthew Shelton. And I think it was like we were in like the third grade where like boys and girls like didn't want to hang out with each other. And it was like weird and gross that we even like spoke or whatever. I just remember that it was like a big thing. So that was like what we had to overcome to like have our friendship. But he lived across the street from the school, and every day after school I would go over to his house and like jump the fence and like make sure nobody saw me. And he had this huge backyard, and in my memory of being that young, it was like this beautiful, magical, like New Orleans land with like huge willow trees and like, moss everywhere.
Wow.
I'm sure if I went back now, it's like just like a normal yard. But when I was a kid, it was like this magical kingdom, right? And so anyway, we would play, we would make believe, and he introduced me to Weird Al. And yeah, so we were just like obsessed. We just, it was like the greatest thing we'd ever discovered. And we went to the first concert I ever went to was Weird Al, and with him, and it blew my mind. And it's still, by the way, like I went to one a few years ago, it's still like blows my mind.
Yeah.
He's such a good
Yeah.
performer. So, you know, for me to like experience that as my first, you know, real concert, it was just like, you know, amazing. He puts on the fat suit and yeah. So it just, you know, it made me like kind of solidified my like, I want to be in entertainment. I want to be close to this kind of stuff. I want to work, you know, work with people like this. So he really definitely had an impact on my career as a child and, you know, what my trajectory eventually was. But, so yeah, I grew up, you know, as a total super fan when I was a kid, and I like, I know his songs, his lyrics before I know the real song and lyrics for a lot of 90s songs, like for real. Like I still sing them in my head when I hear the real song. I'm like, oh, that's not the right version.
Right.
Like, so yeah, he definitely like permeated my childhood, and it was very, you know, such a great thing to be obsessed with. And in Canada, he actually would do Much Music takeovers. Like I think he did MTV ones too, right?
Right.
Or he
Right.
would, like, yeah. But I think he did it more in Canada, or at least like that's what I want to believe. But I remember that a lot, and I would record them all and just like watch them over and over, and like, yeah. So he was just, you know, such a big part of my childhood. And yeah, so it's not to put a downer on things, but Matthew, the kid that I grew up with, who's like my best friend, you know, we floated apart, and years later we connected. I think we were like, I don't know, 22, 23. We connected on the internet, and he was, you know, we're just like going through all those memories, and it was, you know, so nice to connect with him. And then like a week later, I found out he passed away.
Oh no.
It was really sad. Yeah, so he passed away from an overdose, I guess. So he was having some issues, but yeah, and it just, so I don't know, that like, I think about him all the time though, you know, and every time I worked with Al, I was like, oh, I wish Matthew could be here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just, his hamster was named Harvey the Wonder Hamster, you know, so we, our life was Weird Al based, so, but yeah, so, you know, it's just kind of a thing, but hopefully he's somewhere proud of us.
Well, sorry to hear that, and I'm glad that you did get to reconnect with him one last time and relive your childhood and all those amazing memories of Weird Al.
Yeah. No, that like one chat just like means so much to me, and I saved it, and I, you know, it's nice to just really have that just that experience with someone else who truly understands that, like, you know, love and obsession. Because I feel like when you're a kid, like when you love something, you like love something. Like it's it's an intense thing that you feel. So it's just cool to share that with somebody else.
Well, Ethan and I have not outgrown our love of Weird Al since we were children.
Well, yeah.
We still understand that entirely.
I actually have a really good friend who I think he went to like every single show on the No Strings Attached tour or whatever. He's like you guys. He's like and I've always, you know, invited him to every shoot I've done with Al, and he's just like cool, happy to be there, you know, chilling out.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Dave and I, we went to 18 each on the Strings Attached tour, including in Victoria.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
It was my first time ever like out that way.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's like nice. I hate it and I don't want to go back, but that's just but it smells nice. I'll give it that. Fresh air. But yeah, so when I was, I want to say like 16 or 17, I would go on Friendster.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, Friendster.
Right.
And, I would meet all these people, you know, trying to reach out because I wanted to be a film director when I was a teenager. That was like what I wanted to do. And I would always take pictures. And both my parents were like newspaper photographers, like before they had me. So they had some old film cameras. And so kind of just growing up, I always was taking pictures or recording things or making little movies. And so it was just kind of a natural thing that came to me. And yeah, when I was hit 18, I was like, I'm just going to go visit LA with all these people I met on the internet. My parents were like, okay. So I found this group of other weirdos that, they're all from, everybody I hang out with here is usually from another place. Like there's very few people who are LA natives, but all the weirdos kind of come to one place to find each other. And this, this was it. And so I found this like house of weird film nerds in Pasadena, and I ended up like just staying on their couch for like 3 months until I had to go back. So I think I did that like 2 more times, and then eventually was just like, I gotta move here. So I had no fear at that time. Now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, you just like, you didn't have a job, you didn't like have any savings. I literally just like packed up a suitcase full of like books, and I was like, I can't leave my books. They're all like serial killer books, and I still have them. I'm like, why did they? Okay. So that's, yeah. And somehow I landed on my feet here, which is like, oh my God, it's crazy. Because my husband actually, we just got married last year, and he's from Norway, and it was like 90-day fiance, and he's here, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like hard to get your stuff together here. Like it's not an easy place to just, come and live. It's intense. So
especially LA.
I don't know how I did it. Yeah. I don't know how I did it when I had literally like no resources back then. But I did, so I got like a really crappy job at a child photo studio that we'd like go to schools and do school photography. And it was like totally on Craigslist, no background checks, like worst job ever. Totally weird. I would go to schools and was left alone with kids, and they were like, oh, you don't need a background check. So yeah, just to put that out there, maybe the background checks on your school photography people, just so you know. Super weird. But and like oh God, I don't know if she'll ever listen to this, but I had this like manager lady who was above me, and she was always still drunk from the night before, like partying. She did like band photography or whatever, and like she'd show up and she's like has this like thick Southern accent. She's like, I'm Irish, and I'm like, okay, dude, please don't kill us in this car. So that sucked. And I did that for like, I don't know, maybe 2 years. But I then would hang out at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater on Franklin. Mm-hmm. So it had just come from New York, and it was only a few years old here. So it was just kind of starting up. And, it was like improv and sketch comedy, and in this tiny little theater, right? So it was very intimate. And I really liked Jeff Garlin from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And he had a show there, and I would just go and you wait in line for an hour and you get in, and it was just like, it was him kind of just doing half stand-up, half just like venting, from his week, and to like get it out in this arena of people who kind of like understood him a little bit. And it was just really great. And I loved it so much. And it just, it was kind of like therapy. Like he would just have all these really, I still kind of live by some of the things that he said. Like just this one thing about like, your time is valuable. Your time is worth money. Like, don't let people waste your time. Those kinds of things. He kind of just gave me like really good advice when I was young, and like, I think I was about 20. So yeah, I started hanging out there. Eventually I started going to see more shows. And eventually I met Scott Aukerman, and he did a show called Comedy Death Ray at the time, which is now Comedy Band.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had like the coolest, one of the coolest shows there. And I don't even know how we met. We just, I probably just went up to him and I was like, I loved you on Mr. Show or something. And he was like, cool, man, you want, come backstage? And I did. And I started being allowed to go backstage and just hang out and take pictures in the green room because there was no one else doing that. And so I kind of just like did that. And I would just go there every night and I moved down the street. I would go there every single night and just hang out. And yeah, we did like a silly calendar for his show. And so within like 2 weeks, I had a portfolio of all of these people.
Wow.
Like I shot Zach Galifianakis the day before The Hangover came out.
Wow.
So I had
wow.
all these people. Yeah. So like Sarah Silverman, and she was, she had a show. And so she actually got me my first real, ad job. It was for the last season of her TV show on Comedy Central. And she was like, nope, I want this person. And they let me do it. And I had totally no idea what I was doing. But, I hired a great crew, and we had this like huge photo shoot. It was one of the most terrifying and wonderful things I'd experienced. And it really solidified. I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to be doing here. So yeah, it was, just this big set and like this whole crew. And I was like, holy crap, this is all for like, I get to do this. So that was a great experience. And she's the best. And she's always been so supportive, especially, just of younger women that are trying to come up and do stuff. So I will always love her for that. And because she's a great person in general, but
of course.
Like cool people tend to also hang out with cool people, and like kind of the crappy ones get weeded out pretty fast. There's still some creeping around, but like in general, like, they were all kind of friends with each other. So it was like, oh, this person's cool. So like, then I would be kind of accepted and allowed to like do, to take pictures and hang out. So.
Wow. So that's such a big difference between photographing school children and then all of a sudden now you're photographing celebrities and you've got Sarah Silverman and Zach Galifianakis on your resume, so that's amazing.
And actually right after, so I quit that job because I was making like just enough to be able to survive with photo shoots. And I drove by the school photography company, and they had gone bankrupt because the boss was like super sketchy, right? And it was gonna happen, but like, so they were bankrupt, and right outside, plastered all over the gate that was like, do not enter, was my Sarah Silverman promo, the whole ad campaign.
Wow.
And I was like, that's amazing. So I kind of was like, okay, I guess I'm doing the right thing here. Keep going. And that's why I met Al through that group. And I don't remember the first time I met him. It was probably like, there was like, they always used to do like Comedy Death Ray, Comedy Bang Bang, like Christmas show or whatever.
Right.
And so like everyone would come. It was like this big thing, or like they did this one called like Night of 120 Tweets. And like all of these people would show up, these like celebrities. So I think that's where I met Al, is at one of those. Because I have a picture with him and I'm smiling like a total nerd. It's in the if you've ever been to UCB on Franklin, there's a bunch of photos on the wall. And I took all of those way back then. And there's one of me in the corner with Al from like the Comedy Death Ray night. So I think that's probably where I first met him.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because when I was out in LA a few years ago for Weird Al's Hollywood Star Ceremony, I spent a lot of time going to UCB, and I grabbed a picture of your picture with Al. So that was still on my phone.
That's so funny. Well, yeah, they were like, oh, we want to put a picture up of you. And I was like, okay, but Weird Al has to be in it too.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I missed that star ceremony. I just saw on like Tom Lennon's Instagram, like, posting about it.
Yeah.
It was an incredible day.
I love their friendship, by the way.
Yeah, so you also shot Tom quite a bit.
Yeah, around that time, yeah, we were just all kind of hanging out, and like once I was in, it was kind of like, oh, this is the photographer. Because a lot of shooting comedians is like trust, and I don't know, I feel like just kind of the industry of photography is like this stranger comes in that's hired by someone else and takes pictures of you, and you don't really know them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people were just comfortable with me because I was, not one of them, but like pretty close to one of them. Because like comedians can be very dark. There's like definitely a lot of them, have depression and anxiety, and it's a way to work through that stuff. And I've dealt with that, and so I kind of have that understanding, that was like deeper understanding of like existential dread and shit. So so I feel like that's how I kind of like fit into that group a little bit. And they just trusted me, and I wouldn't show pictures that people didn't want to have shown, and
Right.
I'm not gonna do that.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just like became like the go-to person that was like trustworthy. And and I like still hold to that. I'm like, you will never ever have a picture put out that that isn't cleared specifically by you. So but yeah, so and yeah, to
When
be
you're-
clear, Al doesn't fit into that. He's like, as far as I know, like not the darkest person in the world. He's so like happy, and he's always like, hello. But yeah, that crowd in general, we all have some, some sadness about us, but
Of course.
but yeah, he would always, he'd show up and he'd do like, little cameos and stuff. And that was always just so cool. And his wife, Suzanne, is also like one of my favorite people. And we would kind of always get to talking on the side of stuff. And his daughter was always there, Nina, who also turned 18 a few days ago.
Yeah.
Since I can't believe it, like she's she's like an adult now. It's just funny because when I was younger, like, so I think I was maybe, oh gosh, I can't remember, but when I think she was about like 10 or 11, we like sat down and I like showed her how to use my camera and just kind of like how to do some photography. And I just remember sitting there going, oh, this is so cool, because when I was this age, exactly, I was listening to her dad's music and I was like being inspired by it, and
Wow.
it got me to do photography. So it was just such a cool little, things come full circle
Right.
in a strange way. But yeah, they're just cool, and they're always so supportive and always there hanging out.
And Suzanne Yankovic is quite a photographer herself. Have you
Yeah, no,
guys
she's
share tips with each other?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing. I actually have a book she gave me of some of her stuff, and yeah, she's great. I love her work. Her photography Instagram is amazing,
Yeah.
and you should all follow it if you don't.
Yes, we agree with that. She posts some really great stuff, including pictures of Al, which, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
photo you can pick.
No, she's amazing. She's got a really cool life story too, but I'll let her tell that to you guys if she's ever on.
Hopefully one day.
Maybe.
I think the most exciting shot you've done for Al is what I consider to be the greatest Weird Al album cover of all time, and that is the Alpocalypse cover. What can you tell us about getting involved in shooting that, and what went into that?
Yeah, so that is also, honestly, I always make the joke that I'm like, I peaked, like that was my peak. And I'm like, I'm done. I can leave now. Just because of, everything that meant to me, and just, so, but yeah, I'm really proud of it. A lot of my other work isn't as polished in terms of like having that much compositing and like CG and stuff in it, but I'm so happy with it. Like I just really love it. So we shot that in a studio, and everybody would sit on like a little form that was supposed to be like a horse, like a little, I don't know what they're called. They're like, I don't know. It was a lump that was supposed to be a horse. And so everybody would individually, I would shoot them all individual. So Al, just being Al on his. And Pestilence was in full makeup. He was actually, I had done this other book cover for Jenny McCarthy, and he was like this mega hunk that was like a Fabio kind of character. And so it was actually that guy. We had that guy come because he was just this huge dude, right? And he was really cool to work with. And yeah, we like put this like crazy prosthetics on him. So like if you look at him, that's actually like 99% real.
Wow.
Very little retouching on him. Yeah. So he was like that. He actually looked like that when he was there. Same with Death.
Scary.
Death had a hooded and sickle, and War had full armor too. And it was just our one of our friends. He not wearing a helmet. And then we put the silver skull on him later in post. So the horses are completely CGI.
Oh wow!
We were working with a CGI company that did stuff for films, and like friend of a friend, they just kind of were like, sure, why not? And we're able to make those horses for us, which are like so cool looking, and they just turned out perfectly. And we had a guy make the background as well. And the cool part about this whole project was, usually when I do a job like this, I hand over the hard drive and I walk away, and they do all of the post-production, and I most often do not have any further action in that. I love to do my own retouching, and I love to oversee like larger composites and stuff. So
yeah,
they were just cool. I think it was Sony. And they were like, yeah, sure, you and Al can just kind of oversee it. And because, Al's very specific about what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, cool, like, go ahead. And so me and Al worked together to get that done. And that was just such a cool thing to do with them, because I really don't, I've maybe in one other time experienced it like that. So it's just really cool that, like, the artists were able to kind of finish it, because so much of it is post-production, right?
Right. And what kind of input is Weird Al giving you as you're sitting down there working with him and looking at the picture and retouching it?
Yeah. So it was mostly just like, he just had a very specific vision, and I think he probably always does. And yeah, he's just like, yeah, like, I'd bring it back to him and be like, what about this? Like, do you like the hair on this horse? And he's like, oh, like maybe a little, different shade or something. So just, kind of working on it to get it to where, like, I think his vision was. And it was easy. Like, I think we accomplished what we were trying to do. Not easy, but like, he was easy to work with.
Right.
Cause yeah, you chip at it until it's, I guess sculpted to the way you want it to be. So, it was a pretty simple, back and forth. And, as far as I remember, it was a long time ago, but, I just have like good memories from that whole process.
So when you're working on a project like this, like something on the scale of Alpocalypse, is someone like Weird Al, is he coming to you with the idea, or are you approaching him with different ideas? How does that back and forth work?
It depends. For Al, he definitely came to us with this exact thing that he wanted to do. I think that's probably true for everything he does. Mm-hmm. I don't know for a fact, but I feel like he's somebody who knows what he wants. And if you just kind of like look at his career, it's like it's always on brand, and I think he's really good at staying on his brand, and he knows exactly what that is. And so, yeah, I think it's just always like, at least every time I've worked with him, he knows what his brand is, and he knows the perimeters to keep that exact thing going. Just, in terms of like being PG and like, it's for everyone. And I think he's really good at just keeping it, interesting and cool and new. And like, I love everything he does. Is just, it's great. But it's still definitely Weird Al. you know?
Right. Outside of Weird Al, is that normal in your line of business, or are you usually giving other people ideas?
It goes both ways. Sometimes people will come to me, and it depends what kind of project it is. If it's a bigger project like that, like if it's, you know, for advertising or for, you know, a film, often we'll be working with an ad agency, a design agency, or networks will have, or production companies will have an in-house team. So often you'll get like a PDF that is a bunch of ideas they have from an art director, and it's like drawn up and it's great. And then you just kind of go from there and work with them. And, you know, sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on who you're working with and like how. Sometimes they're like, this is exactly what we want, or here's some ideas, we can play with them, kind of thing. I've had times where I went in with, you know, a very specific thing. I do it. I'm like, hey, we have a little bit more time. Can I try this? And, you know, the network's really cool. And they're like, sure. Yeah. So I did this whole other setup, and it ended up being the billboard, rather than what they were originally planning. So that was kind of a one-off, but you know, I always try and do a little more if I can, because you never know what you're going to be able to use. And clients definitely want to have extra stuff. So in the future they can use stuff or just have a lot of options. Like from the Alpocalypse shoot, we did some PR stuff on the side that they were going to use to like promote it, or, you know, we did a bunch of stuff for that. We actually went to another studio and did where the whole band's in it, and it's all green and it's like a industrial place. That's actually, that was my, my friend Nick. He has a shop called All Sets, and that was they used to build like film sets there.
Oh, okay.
And so they let us use that. Yeah. And that was like their real place. And so we just kind of did that as well. And those also made it to the album. But so yeah, we had done a bunch of studio stuff that day when we were shooting Alpocalypse. And that one of those actually ended up being the cover for Medium Rarities, where he's like stuck under some cellophane.
Right, yeah.
So that came out years later, and I was like, hey, I think I shot that. So
what was the original intention for that? Was it that he would be under cellophane, or I mean, it's so perfect.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, wait a second. Sony owns those. So I was like, oh, so they can kind of do whatever they want. And they're just a bunch of, I was just looking at them on my computer. I'm like, oh yeah, these are just a bunch of studio shots of him, you know, playing around, and he's got so many cool poses that he can do. Always with the poses. And yeah, so yeah, that just kind of ended up being something else later on, which is really cool.
It's so cool, yeah.
That picture that was used on Medium Rarities is from the same photo shoot that's inside of the Alpocalypse booklet, the center section with Al in the polka dot pants and black shirt.
Yeah,
it was the same day.
Yep. Yeah, I think he did like a few outfit changes, so we just shot, you know, because he kind of looks the same forever, so you can stretch that.
True.
Yeah.
So how did you first get approached to do Alpocalypse?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think he just emailed me, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's been so long, but yeah, I think he just emailed me.
That's incredible.
Wow.
And did you have anything to do with the video that was shot in that same like workshop? Did you shoot the video?
No, I wasn't directing at that time. I am now, but yeah, so I didn't have anything to do with that.
So I mentioned that the Alpocalypse cover is my all-time favorite Weird Al cover. Now, growing up as a Weird Al superfan, what was your original favorite cover? I have to assume it's now Alpocalypse.
Yeah, it's probably Bad Hair Day. I was obsessed with that one,
yeah.
And even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I love Bad Hair Day so much because it's just, you know, such a fun album cover. But a lot of it, I think, just comes from like the memories of playing it over and over again. I think I had it on cassette tape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely like knew who Weird Al was before I knew who Michael Jackson was.
You've also been on the set of a couple Weird Al music videos. What can you tell us about being on the set for Perform This Way?
Yeah. They just invited me to come on set that day and just do some behind the scenes stuff. The costume designers that were there did such a cool job on, they had to make costumes for the woman who was being Lady Gaga and Al. Because his face was put on her body later. And it was really cool just to see how they pulled that off and, were able to seamlessly put those together. That was a really fun day. A lot of dancing and a lot of, yeah.
Was the meat dress real meat?
I don't know. Probably not because he's a vegetarian, but I don't remember.
So, I mean, can you give us any of the behind the scenes details? Like, obviously, it wasn't Al, wearing all the dresses and stuff.
He did a few, I think there was a few, above chest outfits.
Okay.
I believe. Music videos are kind of different because I'm kind of doing the opposite of what I do when I'm doing photo shoots, which is I'm directing on photo shoots and I'm kind of, managing it. But for doing behind the set stills, you're kind of supposed to be a ghost, right? So a lot of it is I just kind of creep around and watch everyone else and snap some pictures and stuff. So I don't have any specific memories on those. Other than it was so cool and I love being on set and doing Al's music videos. So
now there is a scene in there where there's a bunch of photographers taking pictures. Were you one of those photographers?
No. Weirdly enough, no. Not that I remember, at least.
You also were shooting for the music video of Foil?
I just pulled it up on my computer. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot how many people were here. I have all these silly pictures behind the scenes of Tom Lennon and Ben Grant, with traffic cones on their heads and Patton Oswalt. Oh, and Catherine Burns. She's a choreographer. She's actually an Emmy-winning choreographer now.
Wow.
Yeah, she was there. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So many people. I forgot about this, you guys. It's the best. Yeah, most of the behind the scenes pictures here are of Tom and Ben being silly because they are my favorite. Yeah. These are hilarious. Yeah, maybe I'll see if I can release these.
Oh, it'd be so cool to see them.
Yeah, what happens to all these pictures that you're taking behind the scenes on music videos? Are they for Weird Al, or are they for the record company, or are they for just yourself? Where do they ultimately end up being used?
It depends. I don't remember who hired me on these ones. But it's always I have to get them cleared before I release them. Mm-hmm. With any celebrity, you have to do that for, good reason.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't remember. I just don't remember. I know some of these were released, but yeah, I'll go through them and just see. I'll email Al and see if I can just put them out because they're cool.
Yeah,
I can send them to you. I can send them to you.
That'd be great. Yeah,
might be a fun little gallery.
Yeah,
to go with
absolutely.
This podcast.
So you mentioned you did those photo shoots with Al, but you shot the main tour photo for his Strings Attached tour.
Yeah.
Was that the same kind of thing, sitting on the stirrups?
It was, except we didn't have a very big budget with that one. That was more of a album covers generally have bigger budgets than a tour promo.
Yeah.
So yeah, Al just wanted to be riding I think it's a bass, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so anytime it's Al, I want to do it. And no matter the budget, I want to be, I love him and I want to be able to do it. So I said yes, and there was it was a very small budget. So I was like, okay, how do I do this by myself? I think my friend Lily was assisting me And that was it.
Wow.
So we were like, okay, we got to figure this out together. And, it's kind of fun doing it that way, but also like, okay, we got to make this work. So we made that little horse form out of apple boxes and Fernie pads and gaff tape. So we just like built a mountain. Yeah. I hope it was comfortable enough for him, but built a little mountain. And I have my own little small studio downtown Los Angeles, and I do like portraits and stuff there. So we set it up there, and we had, I remember now, because his hair needed to be blowing in the wind, and I was like, oh man, I don't have like a professional fan. It like had broken. So I'm like, oh crap. In the last minute, I like went out and spent my own money on a leaf blower. Like a small one.
Yeah.
I was like, it's gotta work. I gotta blow his hair. It won't work without his beautiful hair being blown in the wind. So it was kind of like a crazy, running to make this thing work. And he shows up, in a full tuxedo, as Al often does, like totally ready to go. And yeah, he's just such a professional. Like, I look back, I'm like, oh my God, did I make him jump too many times? Like, oh no. But he really he does it. Like, he's such a hard worker, and he just, he knows all his poses and his faces, and he just like gets down to business. And he's a joy to shoot, honestly, because he really has been doing this for so long that he knows exactly what to do. And he's easy to shoot, and he's just super chill to work with. But yeah, I'm like worried I made him jump too many times now, because my friend was like, he jumped a lot in that. I'm like, oh my God. And then now I'm like second guessing myself years later. But no complaints, just happy to do it. And then he left in a tuxedo.
Wow.
Oh, that's so great.
Walked out the door in a tuxedo. Drove home.
Now, for a shoot like that, where you're just maybe taking a specific picture, you have it in mind. How long does that whole process take, and how many actual photos are you taking in that process?
I'm gonna look at that, because when I'm shooting, I'm kind of in my own weird creative space, and I just kind of go with it. Especially something like this, where we're just kind of a little more free with time. I took 400 pictures of him that day.
Wow.
And are they all generally the same picture, or were you doing different poses and different things?
So, okay, the first batch up to about 200 is him on the really crappy horse form that I made. It just was comfortable. And then the other half are his hands, because we wanted to get his hands right for him holding the guitar, because it's kind of a cartoony look, right? Like, it's kind of to actually ride a bass would be really difficult. So there's all these just crazy poses of his, he's like laying in a chair so we could get his feet right and his legs right. Just so we had all these different elements that they could later take and composite together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I didn't do the composite on this one.
Okay. And
then also my friend Sebastian Steinberg, who's an amazing musician. He was in a really famous band in the 90s, which I can't remember the name of because I'm cool. But he tours with Fiona Apple and stuff, and he plays at Largo all the time. But he's this dude who looks like a wizard who has this huge bass. So he came over and let me take a bunch of pictures of his bass.
Cool.
So that's his bass. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How awesome. So now I also understand you have done some photography for Weird Al's longtime guitar player, Jim Chemo West.
I have, yes. So yeah, Jim, all of those guys are so fun to work with. And Jim just emailed me one day and was like, hey, I've got this album I'm doing. It's a flat key guitar, like Hawaiian album with Ken Emerson. And he's like, yeah, we want to be laying on a beach, just sitting on a beach. It's called Slackers in Paradise. And so we figured out the best way with the budget that we had was to composite it and to get stock of a beach. So he came over, actually at the time, he came over to my house and we shot that in my kitchen
Whoa.
in the morning.
This is the Slackers in Paradise album where it's him literally sitting on the beach.
Yeah. So him and Ken are like sitting on chairs on a beach playing their guitars. And so I stripped my kitchen of everything and threw up a gray seamless, and because that's the easiest to cut out when you're compositing. And I have this memory of them. They were just playing their music, right? I was like, okay, like you're sitting on the beach and just play a song. And so they both just start playing, and it's like this beautiful, like they're so talented, and like that music is just like, it's like from heaven. And it's just like gorgeous music. And my roommate wakes up, because this is like early in the morning, and he just kind of like wanders into the room, like in his pajamas, like holding a bong. And I'm like, what's going on? What is this beautiful music? But he didn't realize there was people playing music. I'm like, go back. But then he just stood there like transfixed, and they played a few songs for us, and it was so cool. And I think I have a video of that somewhere.
Wow.
So I should find that. I think it's on my Instagram from like years ago, actually. It's on there somewhere. But yeah, it was cool. And Jim's just so nice. And actually, when I was in Hawaii with my now husband, I had that album, and I was playing it when we were driving through Kauai the whole time.
Oh, wow.
So really
nice.
cool. Yeah. So, they're great musicians as well.
For sure. Oh, that's so great. So, I mean, looking through some of these folks that you've shot, we've only touched on a couple, but I mean, some of my favorite people outside of Weird Al include Bryan Cranston and Bob Odenkirk. What can you tell us about, shooting with them?
So I've shot Bob Odenkirk a couple times. One of the times was for, actually, he wasn't even in that, but he was there. So this is my favorite memory of Bob Odenkirk. So I was always a huge Mr. Show fan, like major Mr. Show fan. And so I was always like so nervous around him, because he's kind of serious, and he's super nice, but he's serious, and he's not just like, oh, hey, I love you, So I'm always like, okay, I hope he likes me. Oh, God. And I was doing this photo shoot for the Birthday Boys, and they had this show on IFC for a while. It was a sketch show.
Yep.
And super amazing. I did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff on that, and those guys are all my buddies and so cool. And I wish that show was still on, because it was amazing. But Bob was, like, producing it. And he I don't know. He was a big part of the behind the scenes of that show. So on the photo shoot that day, we were all out because they wanted some more like kind of cool, gritty photos. So we were outside of Milk Studios in Hollywood, just trying to find like alleys and stuff we could shoot in. And I'm carrying around a $60,000 camera, which is like this medium format Hasselblad. And I'm like crouching kind of like on the side of the road, like almost in traffic, to try and get this shot. And Bob comes up to me. He's like, Robyn, no photo is worth your life. And he just like tapped me on the back. And I was like, okay, sorry, Bob. And then at the very end of it, he just like kind of gives me this like handshake, and he's like looks me straight in the eyes, and he's like, you did a really good job today. And I was just like, oh my God, thank you, Bob.
Oh man.
Like, wow. Approval of like the best, dad ever. So yeah, I love him. But wow. Bryan Cranston, I worked with him twice actually. So the portrait I have of him on my website is actually like a crazy quick photo shoot that I did. My friend Mike Rosenstein, who's a comedy producer, he was doing this pilot for like this little talk show or something, and they were at the Chateau Marmont, and I lived like a block away at the time. And Mike calls me. He's like, it's like 7 p.m. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, not much. He's like, why don't you come up to the chateau and take some pictures? And I was like, all right, fine. So I like dragged all my stuff up there, and I was like, this better be cool, Mike. 5 minutes later, like Bryan Cranston walks in. I was like, okay, all right. No big deal. Breaking Bad's almost like, you know, only like the best show in the world right now.
Right.
Like, no big deal. And yeah, so I set up 2 lights as quickly as I could. I was like in a kitchen. It was this tiny kitchen. And I was just like, oh, hey, Bryan, I need to take a picture of you for the opening credits. Just like pulled them aside. And I took 4 frames, and that was the frame that I got.
Wow.
Like, that's how amazing that guy's, you know, face is, and just like his professionalism too. He's just like on immediately. And another time I was doing behind the scenes stills on a commercial. So it was him and Aaron Paul, and I don't remember what this commercial was. I know like Julia Louis-Dreyfus was there as well, but it was some commercial. But they were like in a pawn shop, and Aaron Paul was doing this like redneck character, and Bryan Cranston was like this pawn shop owner, and it was just super funny. And they were just doing improv, and like Cranston, you know, comes from comedy, and just be like, you know, just watching them play off each other was so cool. And just for a while I was just kind of in there with both of them alone, just watching them like just kind of play. Yeah, it was really fun because it's, I don't know, there's just little moments like that where you're like, oh yeah, these guys are like, everyone kind of comes here for a reason. And when you're in that moment, sometimes you like see that reason, and you see that, like, I don't know, sounds weird, but it's like this purity of like, I don't know, art, I guess, in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like there's a moment when you really like see why someone's here. And thankfully, you know, just with my job, I'm kind of there for a lot of those moments, just quietly observing,
taking pictures.
I don't know. I gotta find a better way to phrase that. But I hope that makes sense.
Now, I mean, for Weird Al fans, the roster of, you know, different celebrities and comedians that you work with are names that definitely our listeners will recognize. Everyone from like Eric Andre to Chris Hardwick, everyone from Thomas Lennon, Reggie Watts, Garfunkel and Oates, Patton Oswalt. I mean, Fred Willard. This list is absolutely amazing. This is like the top comedians. It is so great that you got to work with those. I mean, I know I threw a whole bunch of names at you. Do you have any stories of working with any of those?
I actually have a really good memory about Riki Lindhome. So her and Kate Micucci started doing Garfunkel and Oates at UCB, and I was there kind of around the time they started doing that. And yeah, it was like kind of right as they kind of started to get famous. And Al it was right after I shot Alpocalypse, and he gave me a bunch of tickets to, they were doing like the Orange County Fair or something. He was playing there.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and Riki was a huge fan of his, and I was like, you should come. And so yeah, I brought her with me, and like backstage, I think maybe that was the first time she met him. Wow. I'm not sure on that one, but It was just cool. So, and then obviously they like, you know, totally know each other now, and like, you know, have mutual respect and all that. But yeah, so she was always a fan of his for sure.
You did a shot of Nathan Fielder for Nathan For You, and that is like my new favorite TV show of all time.
Okay, so I also think that is one of the best TV shows of all time. Nathan is actually from Canada. He's from Vancouver, very close to where I'm from. And so that was always my thing with him. We were actually neighbors. We lived down the street from each other in West Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
And so this was after I shot him. I would bump into him. It was weird for a while. Like once a week, I would bump into him. And, you know, we don't like really know each other, but we work together. So, you know, you stop and you say hi. But it was always like the most awkward thing ever encounter every time. He's like, I'm just like, hey, Ethan, what's up? He's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just going to the store. He's like, okay, me too. And then we just like walk away from each other's path. He's not a character on his show. That's him.
That's him.
Wow.
That's totally him. No, he's cool as hell. I love that show.
Yeah.
And when I did that, do you guys remember the episode where he puts up a bunch of posters so people will draw dicks on them?
Yes.
And then he'll catch them. Yeah. So he catches them, and then like it's like pretends it's a cool teen show, but then it's like, tells their parents.
Right.
Okay, so I did all the posters for that.
Wow.
One day, yeah, they were like, hey, it was Absolutely, the production company, and I've worked with those producers a whole bunch, and they're like, hey, do you want to come do this one day? We need to, shoot a bunch of little posters. And so I kind of just had to go with them while they were shooting other stuff. And Nathan and I had to go like run and like do a little photo shoot. So some of them are not my favorite. They're a little janky because we had like 5 minutes to do something in someone's backyard. You know what I mean? It was very much like a run and gun, low budget guerrilla type of thing for that. But yeah, there was a few where we could set up a little more, like the Milkman one. That was that was on the street. So that was so silly and fun. But yeah, Nathan was amazing to work with. He's
awesome.
so weird, and I love him. Yeah. I can't wait to see what else he's doing. Like
I know.
everything that guy does is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw you also did a shot, at least one shot of Rhett and Link from Good Mythical Morning.
Oh yeah, those guys are awesome. My friend Stevie is their producer.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so I've just known her for a while. I did some pictures with her actually. She used to be a model.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I just knew her, and she was like, "Hey, I'm producing this show." I was like, "Cool," and I didn't know who they were. I didn't like listen to or watch or whatever YouTube podcast stuff they did, but my sister does, and she was like, "Oh my god!" But we went out to Griffith Park and got a permit and built an office in the park. I think it was like, yeah, all their crew like built us a little office. Yeah, and just did a little photo shoot in the park.
So cool.
It was really fun. But those guys are super nice too. They're really cool.
Yeah, and also Weird Al fans, of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, who isn't? Let's be honest.
That's true.
That's true. Very true. Are there any comedians or celebrities that you have not worked with that you would love to work with? And who would they be?
My number one is Werner Herzog. He's my favorite filmmaker and just personality and character ever, basically. I've reached out to his management a few times. I was like shut down. So I guess this is a public cry for anyone who can help me shoot Werner Herzog. That would be and I'm trying to learn German. I'm actually trying to learn German right now for another related project where I need to be speaking German. So I want to be able to speak German and just like make him love me, basically. That's my new goal.
I mean, I feel like you've got enough connections that there's got to be a way to get Werner Herzog.
I've been trying for years. I mean, he was on like Parks and Rec, but I can't get him. I don't know. I keep trying though, because I'm like, oh my god, he's getting old. Like I gotta get him. But yeah, I love him so much.
One day you'll get him.
One day, I hope so. It's really like the only. I mean, there's a bunch of other people that I think are cool and I would love to work with, but like that is the main. Like I need to do that before I die, basically.
Yeah,
sure.
Now, before we go, I did want to ask about, you obviously have your main Instagram account at Von Swank, but you also have two others that I wanted to hear about. And I think first, let's start with Von Swank Curiosities. What can you tell us about, this, I guess, series of photos that you've shot all over the world of curiosities?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, I grew up in Victoria, BC. I grew up across from a cemetery, and that I had no friends. So I would sit in the cemetery all day and read and I would read about weird history and, folklore and all this stuff. So that kind of gave me the foundation just for, I don't know, a lot of interest. Like I was a goth kid and, just super into this dark stuff or whatever. But, as I got older, I was like, oh, there's some actually really interesting history behind a lot of this stuff. And I'm just really interested in a lot of, let's see, there's so much stuff I'm interested in. Like the history of medicine and, weird things in jars and all those things. But I love abandoned places. I love, I'm butchering this actually. Let me think. Let me think how to say this. I always feel like I'm like, I like creepy stuff. Like I like scary, spooky stuff. So, I don't know. I have a wide interest in different things that are, aesthetically pleasing. So Europe just has a lot of weird, broken down old history. And I love going to, explore that. And urban exploring, like abandoned houses is just something that I love and have always done. And it's just, it's a rush. It's an adrenaline rush for multiple reasons, legal reasons, safety reasons. You can, things can fall on you and kill you, or things can cave in, black mold,
right.
like wildlife, other people living in there that want to stab you. Multiple things can go wrong. And so there's just that like intense adrenaline rush of doing that. And I've that's something that I just love doing. And it's kind of, working in studios in LA, and it's clean and it's safe and I love doing it. But I love the other half, which is like, I can go and I can just like get down and gritty and like, take pictures of gross things like walls healing, Chernobyl and everything. So I think it's just like, it's me taking a vacation from clean things. I don't know. I just have I have a wide pool of interests, and a lot of those are just like weird old history stuff. And so I like to go, and I also like to be anonymous in a place. Like it just feels, not that I'm like famous or anything, but like it just feels nobody knows who you are, and you can just kind of go and you just feel free. It's just this feeling of freedom, because I usually travel alone. And I just love going to a new city and not knowing anybody, not just seeing things for the first time that are just, like going to Prague for the first time and just seeing the, Rudolph II's like collection of, weird jewels that he had in his alchemy lab. Like
Right.
there's an alchemy lab that they found. It was like from the 16th century. There was like a flood and they found this alchemy lab that like had underground tunnels to the castle. And Rudolph, he was a Holy Roman Emperor. Rudolph II, he was like this crazy dude who he was obsessed with the occult. And he was like, calm down, Catholic Church. Let's instead do all this like crazy magic stuff. And so he like funded all this like alchemy. And so there was all these like wizards, making potions underground in laboratories. And he would like walk through the hallways with like crocodiles and stuff. Like he had these like crocodiles with like jeweled necklaces. There's just crazy history,
Wow.
So yeah. How can you not like that stuff? It's fun. So.
Now, there is another Instagram page I'd like to ask you about, and that is at Winston T. Gravy. What can you tell us about Professor Winston T. Gravy and his Instagram page?
Well, he is currently sleeping next to me and making tiny little noises. He just turned 8 years old.
Aww.
8 years old last week. He is a Chihuahua miniature pinscher Australian Shepherd.
Wow.
Which I don't know how that makes sense. Yeah, he's a creature. He's definitely a creature. But he's my best friend, and we hang out like 24 hours a day. But he comes with me to most of my photo shoots. And he's just a nice little therapy dog. He can sit on people's laps, and yeah, he really has come to most of my shoots. He, when someone's waiting around or whatever, he'll just go and sit on them and give them some love. So yeah, he's always around.
So has Professor Winston T. Gravy, has he met Weird Al?
Probably. You have to ask him.
Yeah, we wouldn't want you to wake him up for that. So
I'm sure he has.
And do we know what the T stands for?
Okay, so I was really into Wolf of Wall Street when I got him.
Okay.
It's like it had just come out, and I was like, "This movie's crazy." Also, why is Jordan Belfort still allowed to make money? But this movie's crazy. And Winston was a little aggressive towards another dog and tried to hump it, and I was like, "Oh, he's so aggressive. He's like tiny Jordan Belfort," and I don't know. So it was, T stands for Tiny Jordan Belfort. It just sounded better than Winston Gravy, at the time. So.
It's incredible. And what does he teach, or is he just an honorary professor?
Well, he's a professor of adventure.
Okay.
He's tenured. Yeah.
Wow.
He knows what's up. He's been a lot of places, actually. He's been all around the U.S., and he's got different sweaters from every place.
Wow.
He's very well.
Wow. Very well traveled.
He's an impressive dog.
Yes, it sounds like it. He's very cute too, so people should check out Winston T. Gravy on Instagram. Robyn, this has just been so awesome getting to chat with you, and I feel like there's hundreds of hours of more stories that you could be telling us. It sounds like you've done it all. You've seen so many great people. You've gotten to work with so many great people. We can check out your website, vonswank.com. And is Von Swank, is that a real name, or is that just like an awesome made up name?
Yeah, no, it's a lie. I totally made it up when I was like 15.
Okay.
And I always wonder if I should keep it. I'm like, God, so lame, but
no,
it's already stuck.
It's so. Awesome.
My dad still makes fun of me, so what are you going to do?
So we can follow Von Swank Curiosities, Winston T. Gravy, and at Von Swank on Instagram. And Robyn, this has just been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, anytime. You guys are great.
Thank you for joining us, Robyn. That was an amazing interview. It was so much fun to get to hear all about the exciting photo sessions that you had with Weird Al.
Yes. So this is kind of funny. Not too long after we actually recorded the interview with Robyn, someone on the Weird Al Ultimate Hoarding Extravaganza group on Facebook posted one of her photos that they had autographed by Weird Al. And I commented, "Hey, Robyn Von Swank took that photo."
Bermuda confirmed that was Robyn at the photo session, and that the Alpocalypse cover photo session was held on October 6th, 2010. And then Bermuda posted a follow-up picture as well.
Yeah, so in the picture, it showed Robyn taking the picture of Al and the guys sitting on the couch that had been commented. So I wrote back, I said, "Hey, I hope someone like Ruben took a picture of you, Bermuda, taking a picture of Robyn, taking a picture of Al." And he responded by saying, "Well, unfortunately, Ruben was taking a nap." And then he showed a picture of Ruben laying on the floor taking a nap. So... Oh, man.
Bermuda also mentioned on the Weird Al Ultimate Hoarding Extravaganza group that the workshop photo shoot session was taken a few days before the October 6th Alpocalypse cover photo session.
Now, after the interview, Robyn sent us a link to this really cool album of photos that she took on the set of the Perform This Way music video. So head over to patreon.com/2000inch, and we have a link there for you to check these out. And don't worry, you don't have to be a Patreon supporter to see the link. It's up for free for everybody, but you can feel free to join and become a supporter while you're there.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by vegan Mexican restaurant Burrito Burrito in Troy, New York, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla Burrito Burrito. Come on down to Burrito Burrito and Burrito Burrito your Burrito Burrito. Find them at burritosquared.com and at burritosquared on Instagram. And remember, not every burrito is a burrito burrito burrito, but every burrito 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 can be burrito burritoed.
Each week, we're able to bring you this podcast absolutely free, thanks to sponsors like Burrito Burrito. Man, where did I hear about Burrito Burrito recently? Anyway, also Angel Valenzuela and his son David Cash, Discover Darwin, Jackson Scoggins, and our amazing close personal friend Patreon supporters Blair, Allison, Javier, Kenneth, Jared, Zeb, and introducing Mark. We also want to give thanks to our newest supporter, Richard, and everyone else in our Patreon family.
Revenue from our incredible supporters on patreon.com/2000inch allows us to continue doing what we love, which is making fantastically fun, funny, and family-friendly Weird Al podcasts for you each and every week. We'd absolutely appreciate your consideration in joining our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family for as little as $1 per month.
Looking for another way to support the podcast? Head over to shop.2000inch.com for official Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast t-shirts, tote bags, Gosners, mugs, tank tops, face masks, Lee shoes, pillows, and so much more.
Find us online at weirdalpodcast.com or 2000inch.com, where you can find information about our guests and listen to past episodes like episode 79inch, where we interview Kraft Punk, aka Dan Curry, from The Eric Andre Show. Please join our Facebook group by heading to group.2000inch.com for episode discussions and other exclusive content. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 2000inch and at youtube.2000inch.com. Be sure to share our posts and tell your friends to gill and chill.
We love it when you leave us voicemail via our 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347 Spatula. You might even hear your message on the air. The 347 Spatula hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, is sponsored by Angel Valenzuela and David Cash, two amazing Weird Al fans and podcast supporters.
You can catch our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or the podcast app of your choice. Whichever you choose, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss any episodes. New episodes drop every Wednesday.
Be sure to look out for our series of bonus episodes where we sit down with John Bermuda Schwartz and go page by page, picture by picture, inch by inch, MC by MC through his book, Black and White and Weird All Over. Time is running out for you to grab the book if you want to be able to follow along with those episodes. Plus, it's a great gift to give someone for the upcoming Pi Day.
Thank you once again to our guest this week, Robyn Von Swank, and thank you to Jim Chemo West for our incredible theme song, and thanks to all of our listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who makes this episode and podcast possible.
Wow, we can add Robyn to that long list of professionals who have shot Weird Al that have been on our podcast.
Whoa, Ethan, remember I said our podcast is family friendly? We cannot talk about shooting people.
Yeah, but this is family friendly. It's about shooting photos.
That's it. No more. You say that salty language again, and I will make sure that our intern Frank bleeps you.
Oh, really? You're gonna bleep me if I say...
Already did.
Okay, well, would it be family friendly for us to play a little game?
Of course it would be. What game are you thinking about?
Well, how about rock, paper, scissors?
All right, sure, I'll go. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors. That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 95-inch.
That Gosners doesn't belong to Lee Chew.
I was like, what's going on? What is this beautiful music?